Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. In only a few hours, we're going to begin the holiday of Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, when we celebrate that miraculous time when the big and mighty Greek army fell to the small band of Hashmonaim, the Maccabees, who heroically protected the Jewish people in Israel. And it's interesting because Hanukkah always coincides with the portion of Miketz. Miketz is the portion when Pharaoh has his two dreams. And why do they always coincide? But when you read Pharaoh's two dreams, how do the dreams begin? The first dream is there were the 7 fat cows and the 7 thin cows. And the fat cows were swallowed up by the thin cows. And then he sees ears of corn, 7 thin, tiny ears of corn that swallow up the large and the fattened ears of corn. And what's the message? The message is the message of Hanukkah. You look around the world and you see these people that look mighty and strong and so much more numerous. And throughout our history, time and time again, they've tried to annihilate the Jewish people. But what the story of Hanukkah teaches us, and what Joseph understood in interpreting the dreams of Pharaoh, is that not always what looks fat and big will swallow that which looks small. But sometimes, and in the story of the Jewish people, every time, the small Jewish people have overcome all their adversaries. Miracle after miracle, story after story. It's the thin cows that have swallowed the so many that wanted to annihilate us. And that's why the story of Miketz is always connected to the story of Hanukkah. Because when you read of Al HaNisim, what do you read? You read that God, Masarto, Giboidim Biyad Chaloshim, you gave those that were mighty and large, the strong ones, fell into the hands of those that were weak, the Jewish people. And those that were many succumbed to those that were little. Think about this past year. Think about October 7th. Fighting on 7 fronts, one after the other, trying to annihilate the Jewish people. But as we say in the blessing tonight on the menorah, She'asa nisim la'avotenu, God who made miracles to our matriarchs and patriarchs. By Yamim Haim, it might have happened in those days, but Bisman Hazeh, in these times too. Those miracles that we read about, the Al HaNisim, the dream that Pharaoh had, that Joseph interprets, where the many fall into the hands of the few, is the story of the Jewish people, and the story of our survival, and the story of how we are thriving, and literally how we've changed the Middle East in this past year. And Israel has emerged as the superpower in the Middle East. You think about the miracles of this past year. When you go to the menorah tonight and light your menorah, how are you not going to think, when you see those candles flickering and burning, of the miracle that has been this past year? And that's what we celebrate today more than ever. You know, the real heroes are the IDF soldiers who have gone out to protect the Jewish people time and time again. In Gaza, in the West Bank, in Judea, in Samaria, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iran, with the Houthis, the people who have been at the forefront to make sure that, as we say in the Al HaNisim, it's Giboidim Biyad Chaloshim, that those big and mighty millions and billions of people won't be able to overcome the strength of the Jewish people. I read the story about this IDF soldier. He was a reservist. His name was Itamar ben Hemo. Itamar ben Hemo was 49 years old. He was way over the age of conscription. He didn't have to become as a reservist. But he felt that his experience as a paratrooper in the Lebanon war in 2006 made him valuable to his country. And Itamar decided to go fight. Itamar went to fight. And it was one day in January when he thought it was a short mission. He was going into Gaza to help a wounded soldier. And suddenly he felt the burning in his side. A bullet evaded his protection, his protective vest, and several organs were damaged. And Ben Amo Itamar was rushed to the hospital. And he recalls thinking he might not make it. But while he was recovering in the hospital, the technology industry was in the midst of a fast-moving generational upgrade due to AI, artificial intelligence. Businesses of all shapes and sizes continue to seek ways to integrate the technology of AI into the customer service. And that's where a company that Itamar founded, called Rivery, which he helped start in 2019. And while Itamar was recovering in the hospital from his wounds in Gaza, he was guiding his company, which just this past week, 11 months after Itamar was hospitalized, the company was bought by a Pennsylvania-based company, Boomi, for $100 million. Think about this soldier who was a tech entrepreneur, 49 years old, who had every reason not to go into the reserves and didn't need to, but yet realized that his experience as a paratrooper in Lebanon would help the Jewish people. So he gave everything up and he went to fight, getting wounded in Gaza, trying to protect a wounded soldier. And here, 11 months later, his company sold for $100 million. The story, the miracle of the Jewish people, the miracle of the IDF, the miracle of Eretz Yisrael, and the victory after victory that we are having now. As we light the Hanukkah menorahs tonight, and we think about the blessing, Sha'asa Nisim Laviseinu, God that made miracles to our forefathers in those days, but in these times, we pray for the 101 hostages, that the miracles continue, and that those that are alive be brought home to their families, and those that have been killed be brought to burial in Israel. May God give us continued miracles. And when we look at the candles and see the stories, the miracles that continue to happen to our people. Chag Sameach, Happy Hanukkah.